Tony was lying on the operating table after being in a near-fatal accident. The doctors were performing an emergency operation on him, and they knew that he was dying, but they kept trying to save him. God knows enough people died in this hospital lately, a doctor said. Tony could hear them speaking. Suddenly he heard one of the nurses say, "We have lost all vital signs." He then found himself falling in through a tunnel, and he remembered hearing about a dark tunnel and a light people see just before they die. He then was looking down at the operation table from floating above. He wondered, was this an out-of-body experience? Was he dead? He must be if there were no vital signs. Then suddenly he heard a nurse speaking to him. "Don't give up. It's not your time to go. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. Don't give up whatever you do. Keep fighting." The nurse had a strong Irish accent. She continued to speak. "Tony, you have so much more to do in this world. Don't give up. Come back. Don't leave. Your time to go is not now." Suddenly, Tony wasn't floating over the bed anymore, but he was back in his body and could hear a doctor say, "Wow, that was something else. He was almost gone for 10 whole minutes." A nurse said, "Vital signs are stable." Tony smiled, and a few minutes later, he was speaking to the nurse. But he realised it wasn't the nurse that saved him by asking him to not give up. The nurse said, "You gave us all a fright, Tony, but what just happened was nothing short of a miracle. You were dead for 10 whole minutes." Tony said, "Could I please thank the nurse with the Irish accent, please? She kept telling me don't give up, and that is what made me pull back from crossing over." The doctor said, "Tony, there is no one here with an Irish accent." "Well, luckily we don't have the nurse with that accent around her anymore." Tony asked, "Why? What's wrong with her?" The nurse said, "The only nurse around here with an accent from Ireland was this crazy woman. She murdered 14 of our patients, and when she was found out, she shot herself in the head. Just before she did shoot herself, she started rambling on about she would make sure we all pay for getting her caught." Suddenly the woman froze, and the doctors, when the nurse with the accent from Ireland appeared and said, "I made my penance after I killed those patients, and I proved it by bringing this patient back to life. But as for the doctors and nurses, who were the reason I was caught experimenting with murder, well, that's a different story. Within 2 minutes, everyone in the room were killed besides Tony. Soon after, the police were called, and Tony was arrested for multiple homicide of the nurses and doctors that were killed by the ghost of the nurse who saved him." Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. Lee was looking forward to go to a new club tonight. It played his favourite music, drum and bass, and he was really looking forward to letting go after a hard week's work. He used to look at dancing to drum and bass as a workout, especially when he stopped taking drugs a year ago. When he got to the club, he was dancing with his friends and really enjoying the thump of the drum and bass in the club. There was a guy outside their group who was dared by his friends to spike Lee's drink. He dropped a tablet with 2022 written on it. His friends told him that it wasn't ecstasy, but a new type of hallucinogenic drug. He had a choice of magic mushrooms, or a tablet with a star on it, or 2022. But since it was the 1st of January 2022, he decided to spike his drink with that pill. After a while, Lee was coming up on the trip, and he felt great. His friends didn't even realize until after an hour it was obvious he was on a very, very bad trip. Suddenly the club became like a dark woods, and his friends were replaced with demons. This was all in Lee's head, of course, but there was no point in his friends saying that. When he was outside the club instead of it being night, it was like he was in the middle of all colours, floating around, spinning around. He couldn't make sense of it, but it was terrifying him. He was inconsolable. No matter how much his friends tried to talk him down from the trip, they couldn't. They expected the next day he would have a very bad come down, but the real nightmare came when they realised he didn't come out of the trip. A whole week later, it was then he was put into a psych ward for his own safety. When the guy who spiked Lee's drink heard about what happened, he couldn't believe that he was still tripping. And he couldn't believe that it was true. Whoever took that pill would be on a trip for all of 2022. And to make it worse, Lee was on a very, very bad trip. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Sarah was looking forward to watch a movie called The Last Night on Earth that she was lent by her sister. It seemed to be a great horror movie, which Sarah loved. Any horror movie was her type of movie. She loved the suspense and the thrill of what could happen next. Sarah's best friend Louise was calling over to watch the movie in about 30 minutes. Sarah decided to have a quick shower, so she left a note on the dining room table saying she was in the shower and won't be long. When Sarah was in the shower, she was humming to her favourite Guns N' Roses song, Paradise City. She had a habit of singing or humming in the shower. A few minutes later, there was a knock on the shower door. Sarah shouted, "Hi Louise, thanks for letting me know you're there. I'll be down in 2 minutes." When Sarah was out of the shower, she heard a car pull up in her drive. She was shocked when she looked out the window, realizing Louise had just pulled into her driveway. It hit her suddenly. If Louise was just after pulling into her driveway, then who had just knocked at the shower door? A cold shiver ran up her spine, and suddenly a figure dressed in black stood in front of her and said, "I hope you enjoyed your last night on Earth," and shot her dead. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content.